I'm Aurora, and my journey with yoga began when this guy trusted 17-year-old me with the keys to this studio so I could clean in exchange for classes. For the past 13 years, I've dedicated my career to giving back that exact gift I was given, and now I'm here to share it with you. Welcome to Work From Home Yoga. Hello and welcome from me and Bodhi. Today we are going to keep it fairly chill, and the theme of today's class is all about moving with intuition. What does that mean? So often when we show up to our practice, sometimes we can get stuck in these shapes that feel very cookie cutter to our bodies, or we're hearing the cueing and so we're trying to move our bodies in a particular way based on that. But what I really want you to do today is explore movement that feels intuitively helpful, comfortable, productive for your body. So get curious, experiment, do things that you maybe normally wouldn't, and see if you can create sensation in parts of the body that feel really tight, or just kind of create new sensations that maybe you haven't experienced before because you work within certain parameters. Sound good? Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started in a seat. So you can sit on your heels just like this, resting the palms on the quads. Lift the shoulders up toward the ears, draw them back and down, and then reverse. So shoulders back, up, forward, and down. So just like this. A couple times in each direction. Landing with the shoulders back and down, tucking the chin in toward the chest, and closing the eyes. Start to find the breath. Settling into the shape. Becoming aware of this internal landscape of the body, and what we're working with, and the internal landscape of the mind, and what we're working with there today as well. Instead of setting that stuff aside, you can actually integrate it within our practice to allow our movement to be more informed and intentional and intuitive. Intuitive movement means letting go of these rules that we hold on to. Whether we realize it or not, we all operate within a lot of them, even within the yoga practice. And those rules can be guardrails that allow us to feel more safe and comfortable because we know what's coming, we know what to expect. And sometimes they have the opposite effect of controlling our movement in a way that doesn't serve our needs on a particular day. So today we're letting go of rules, guidelines, guardrails, and finding some freedom of expression in our movement. Using all of the material of sensation within the body and any material within the mind in terms of how we're feeling today, any emotions we're working through, stories that are top of mind. Weave that into practice today. And take 3 more breaths here. gently blink the eyes open. We're gonna relax the hips all the way over to the left with the feet slightly out to the right, and then reach up and over toward the right side to stretch the left side body. So first opportunity to try something different with this top arm. I don't care what it is, it's absolutely anything you want, but find some kind of movement that's slightly different than normal that allows you to really target the left side body a little more. And you'll start to see, especially from the way that I move, that it doesn't always look very pretty, and it does not have to be static. You don't have to start out in the shape and hold it there. You can kind of play around with where you can really maximize the shape and then see how that feels. So here's mine, right? This looks totally different than a normal shape, but if I shift over and then press my head against my arm, that helps me feel it on the left side better. That's just what we're gonna do right now. So we'll hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let's lift up and then switch sides. Again, we'll have that guidepost of the target area, which will be the side body, and then we can move the top arm in a way that allows us to get more deeply into that space. As always, one side may not look like the other, and that's okay. Don't have to be even. Like this side, it's kind of hard to get into it. Hey Jake, welcome.
Hi.
The theme of today's class is all about moving intuitively and intentionally. So lots of experimenting with movement.
Oh.
Okay, we'll hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, lift up. Let's sit back on the heels. You just missed one side stretch, that's it. So you're all good. Gonna reach the arms up, bring the palms together, bend at the elbows, take the thumbs to the upper back in between the shoulder blades, and then lean back. So target area here is creating space across the chest, and then add in anything else that helps you do that. So maybe you don't keep the hands together, maybe you interlace. It's all about figuring out whatever the body needs versus staying stuck within those guidelines that we normally kind of walk within the yoga practice. Okay, stay here, full breath in, full breath out. Okay, release. Come onto hands and knees. Now, target area, stretching the wrists. So whatever you want to do to stretch the wrists. Maybe fingertips toward the knees, backs of the hands on the mat. There's lots of ways to do this. Spend about a minute here. Slow, full breaths. Knowing you can pick a shape and then change your mind, do something else. Double up, right? You can tuck the toes at the same time. Like learning to trust that we really do know what is best for our bodies. Guidance is helpful. At the same time, we can kind of take over whenever we need to and kind of surrender to that natural intelligence of what the body needs versus giving it total direction. About 3 more breaths. Shake out the hands. That feels good. We'll stay seated again in this hero's pose. Sweep the arms up, take the right hand to the left elbow, and then target area again is going to be the whole left side of the body. So whatever you want to do to get into the left side a little bit more, try that out. So maybe shifting the hips off to one side, reaching forward, leaning back, moving the shoulder around. Gazing to the left, putting pressure with the head against the arm. There's so many nuanced variations. We'll hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release, and then switch. Left hand to right elbow, whatever you want to do here. Right side body stretch, and upper back between the shoulders. Right there. See, this is such a weird looking pose, but if I just shift forward, that's where I feel it. Okay, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, release. Come onto hands and knees, drop down to the forearms. Roll around in some circles here. Warm up the shoulders. Reverse directions. And then turn this movement into a shape. So a square, a figure 8, spelling out a name. Make the movement different than it normally is. And then reach the arms forward. Drop the chest down, flip the right palm up, bend at the elbow, bring the hand to the upper back in between the shoulder blades. So, target area is the right side. Any extra movement or variation you want to do here to intensify it, find that. Then hold for 3 breaths. Up and switch sides. Three breaths. And pop back up onto hands and knees. Step back to a plank pose. And then play around in your plank. So our focus right now will be finding some core engagement and length through the spine. So whatever you want to do here in order to set yourself up to feel that warmth and heat building in the core. The broadening across the chest, strength of the arms, strength of the legs. And then up and back to a downward facing dog. Make this down dog feel good. So try out some different kinds of movement with the legs in order to try and isolate more within the IT band. Outer hip, outer edges of the legs. So things that you can do: walking the feet forward, shortening your stance, pointing your toes out to the side, lifting one foot, one heel up, straightening one leg, bending into the other, pressing your hips back. Loads of options. Crossing the feet. Floating one foot, rolling out the ankle. Let's actually try that too, because that feels really good. So we'll set the right foot down completely with the toes out toward the side, as if that foot's in a warrior one stance. And then cross your left foot over the right. Bend at the knees, so you're squeezing your heel in toward your glute. And start to walk your hands back about halfway, so you can shake your hips side to side. And if you want to play with balance here, maybe you take the right hand to the outer edge of the foot. And then switch. That left foot goes down, toes out, press the hips back, cross the right foot over, bend at the knee, walk the hands back a little bit, shake the hips, really get into the IT bend. And set both feet down, walk the hands back to the feet. Take a forward fold at the back of the mat. Try something different with the arms. So maybe interlace the hands at the low back, arms behind the legs, hands underneath the feet. Target area of the stretch are the hamstrings. So whatever you want to do with the arms to create more of an effect there. And find some movement with the legs, slightly different than usual. Maybe you float the toes, lean forward, lift the heels, come up onto the tiptoes, shift all your weight over to the right, to the left. Maybe you crack your toes. You stretch the tops of the feet. You can dip down, hug the knees in, float back up, take little hops. Let it be more playful than usual. And we're going to take that left hand and slide it underneath the legs, wrapping it around. So we're reaching that left arm underneath, reaching it back behind us. Right arm reaches for the low back, and then the hands meet together. So either interlacing the hands holding on with the fingers or reaching for that wrist. So I've got this full bind around the left leg. Find some movement here. Warming up the legs. Finding some strength, balance. Start to walk the feet in a little closer together toward one another. See if you can float your left heel off the ground. And maybe just try and lift that left foot off the ground an inch or two. And then set the foot down. Float the heel, lift the foot, lightly set it down. Do this a couple more times. You'll feel that heat, fire in the right leg. And then we'll switch. So right arm will reach through underneath. Full bind. Same thing, find some movement first. Walk the feet together. And then see if you can float that right foot off the ground. Lightly, set the toes, the heel back down. A couple times like this. Staying with the breath. It's probably the first shape where the breath might get compromised. And then release. Walk the feet out, drop down to a squat. Whew. Find movement here that feels good. Whenever you get to a sticky spot, feel free to hold it. So again, you can see if this doesn't quite look like a normal shape, right? I'm like kind of curling inward, chin to chest, reaching forward over to the right, and I've got the knee out and open toward the floor. So this is what my body's like, yes, that feels great for inner thigh, inner hip, outer hip. You can even press the knee away. But depending on where you feel the tightness in your body, this pose might not work at all. But the problem with yoga that I find sometimes is that we get so caught up within the sequence that there isn't as much room to explore some of these nuanced variations that might work better for our bodies. We don't have time to even figure out what that might feel like because we're so busy within the shape itself. But this is where I get so many of my ideas for all of the weird flows. It's just from allowing myself to move in a way that feels good versus having it be prescriptive. Okay, we're gonna take a big step forward with the left foot, spin to the right for a wide-legged forward fold. Hang out here for about 5 breaths. Target area, inner thighs. So anything you want to do differently here than you normally would. Options might be heels in, toes out, pressing weight back, dropping down to the forearms, shifting weight forward, widening your stance, shortening your stance, reaching over to one side, pulling into the other, dropping crown of the head toward the floor. Walking the arms forward. Two more breaths. And then lift up, rotate, plant the hands, step it back to a plank pose, drop down to the knees, lower down to the floor. And now target area is low back, back bend. So 3 rounds, whatever you want to do to find some space across the chest, strengthening the low back, and then re-lowering down. You could do traditional baby cobra. You could have the hands out, staying on the fingertips, lifting up. You could sweep the arms back, float the legs, the arms off the mat. You could do one of each, all 3 the same. And then when you're done, press back, downward facing dog. We'll sweep the right leg up and then do something to activate the right glute. So we want to find a squeeze, a little bit of heat. And then with that activation, do something to challenge your balance. So maybe left fingertips, maybe you walk the hand back, maybe you float the hand, but try to keep the engagement with the squeeze and the balance at the same time. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Keep that leg straight. Get rid of that engagement and squeeze. Now focus on that left outer hip, the IT band. Whatever you need to do there to send the stretch into the left IT band. And then as lightly as you can, knee comes toward the nose, step the foot forward. Whatever you want to do to stretch the left quad. So you can stay with the knee lifted, you can lower it down. Your choice. 5 breaths. Add in some kind of hip stretch for the right side. 5 more breaths. And take your time, make your way back to a downward facing dog for a scorpion. Bending at the knee, opening up through the hip. And then keeping the scorpion, we'll drop down to the forearms. You can interlace your hands or bring the palms together. Either hold here, or if you want, play around with shifting your weight forward, getting your shoulders stacked on top of your elbows, and then taking little hops. Trying to float that foot off the ground for a couple seconds. Using the strength in the arms, the shoulders. Set the right foot down, meet in dolphin pose. Create space across the upper back. And then drop down to the knees, take a child's pose. 5 breaths. And shift forward back to plank pose. Downward facing dog. Left leg reaches up. Do something to engage the left glute. And then add in something for balance. Right? And the option does not have to look the exact same on the second side. You can try something different. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Do something to send the stretch into the outer right hip, IT band. And then knee to nose, step the foot forward, 5 breaths to stretch that right quad hip flexor. And turn this into a stretch for the left hip. And then reframe hands to frame that front foot. Swing the left leg up and back into scorpion. And drop down to the forearms. Press the chest back. And then shift your weight forward, shoulders over the elbows. Play around, take little hops. set the left foot down. Dolphin pose. And child's pose. 5 breaths. Shift forward and thread the needle. So slide the left arm underneath the right, dropping down to that shoulder. Extend the right leg out to the side. Target area of the stretch is the left side body. So whatever you want to do to maximize it. You can take the hand to the outer edge of the foot, lift yourself up, pull back, reach back with a straight arm, cactus, half bind. Reach that arm forward, press back. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And switch. Eyes up, and then that right arm sweeps underneath, drop down to the shoulder, left leg out. Can always use a wall for support. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Unwind, back to the tabletop. And then anything you want to do to work with the feet. So you can shift back, stay with the hands on the floor, flip the knees, walk the hands back. Lift up and balance, knees to chest, knees down. Your choice, 5 breaths. And then release. Come to sit down. And draw the soles of the feet together. Knees out wide. And then slide the hands underneath the legs. Dropping down to the forearms. Crown of the head drops toward the floor. Breathe here. And slowly lift up. We'll take a 90-90. So that left leg will bend at the knee so the shin is parallel toward the front of the mat. And then this right knee will come to the inner edge of the left foot. So you're creating two triangles with the body. And then once the knee is at the foot, we'll sweep that knee back. So that way we have more of a square shape with the legs. Now you get to move in a way that feels good for the low back and the hips. So that might mean leaning over to the left, leaning over to the right, staying upright, doing a twist, reaching forward. Lots of variations. 5 breaths. And to get out of this, we'll reverse it by flipping the legs. So rotating back into center and then turning to face the other side. And lift back up, face the front of the mat, draw the knees together, lower all the way down onto the back, and roll the knees around in circles. Do any other poses body is craving before Shavasana. And then when you're ready, just letting yourself melt onto the mat. Feet to either corner, arms away from the body. Let yourself take up some space. Close the eyes and settle in. Do a couple slow, full breaths here. Bring subtle movements of the body. Take as much time as you need to roll over. Lift yourself up to a seat, eyes closed. Once you get there, resting the palms on the knees or the lap. Checking in with how the body feels. After maybe some different kinds of movement today. Remembering that we can always infuse that mindset of experimentation and curiosity within every single practice. That invitation is always there. It's just a matter of remembering and recognizing that we can say yes to movement that feels good, intuitive, and helpful. Draw your hands to your heart, thumbs at the chest, in gratitude for the practice of yoga and the opportunity to practice together. Take a full inhale. Audible exhale. Namaste.